Hey everybody, welcome to a bonus episode of Indie Comics Relay on our off Wednesday night. My name is Keith Gleason. I'm the creator of the Mighty Mascots, and with me as always is my co-host, my good friend Johnny C. How's it going, buddy?
What's up? We're on an off Wednesday.
I know.
But it's, bonus episodes are great. We're basically trying to help creators bring eyes to their projects, and if we have to do it on an off week, we'll do that. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I agree. And so this is a great episode tonight. This is a guy I've been wanting to talk to for a while, a fellow Alterna creator. And he's got a new Indiegogo project, which is the reason we are doing this whole bonus episode. And go ahead.
And real quick, you like with that new intro, you'd think we'd actually have a budget around here.
Yeah, did you like that?
It looks good.
Me and Amy were kind of putting it together all weekend, and I was like, everybody uses the generic StreamYard countdown, so I'm like, I wanted something more that's like our personality, our artwork from both of our comics, just help our channel kind of stand out a little more,
I love it. Well edited, very well put together. Love that it fits the aesthetic of everything else. So it's fantastic. Like I said, you'd think we'd have a budget or something around here.
Maybe someday. So, all right, without further ado, our guest tonight is Dave Swartz from Alterna Comics. He's done a series called Feast or Famine, and he has a new Indiegogo that went live, I think, yesterday. So let's bring Dave on. Let's get to know him. Hello, Dave. Welcome to Indie Comics Relay. How's it going?
Oh, it is going very well. It's very, very good to be here with you guys.
Yeah, great to have you, man. I've been wanting to talk to you for a while. I've actually talked to most of the Alterna creators, at least over email or IMs or whatever. And we haven't talked that much, but we have talked a little bit, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you a little bit. And I also wanted to tell you why I have you here is I loved Feast or Famine when that came out from Alterna. I mean, great sci-fi book, man. It was really great.
I read the preview of Feast or Famine today as part of my research, and absolutely loved it. A couple of things about it. I made a couple of notes here. Is that first page, you open it up, there's fucking Kirby dots everywhere, man. You pulled me right in. I'm so pulled in by that. And then the backgrounds is very deeply sci-fi, but it also reminded me of an old Mario Bava film, Planet of the Vampires. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but
I have not, but it sounds like it fits.
It's like Mario Bava possessed you and wrote a little piece of Planet of the Vampires in your work. I love it. It's absolutely awesome.
Well, it's interesting about Feast or Famine real quick. That was actually drawn by another artist. So that was done by Joseph Cooper. And I worked with him on Feast or Famine for about a year. And then almost directly after that, I worked with him again on a comic book story of the history of basketball for another publisher. So I then worked with him for however long, and probably about 2.5 years there, just getting page after page after page of his work. And I think his style downloaded into my brain. So now I look at my art and I'm like, I see Joe's work all over. So.
WWJD, what would Joe do, right?
Yeah. He taught me not to be afraid of black. Just
Oh,
go with shadow, man. Just like put shadow everywhere because I needed more contrast, and it elevated my work.
What two wildly different projects that you guys reconnect on, huh? One's a basketball history nonfiction piece, and the other one's this wild sci-fi fantasy horror adventure.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience getting to work with him on two different books, one that I wrote and one that I didn't, obviously. But I'm glad that you mentioned the Kirby Crackle, because that was definitely his kind of signature thing, and I told him, I was like, just play that angle up, man. We're talking retro 50s right now, retro 50s, 60s, like give me as much of that as you possibly can.
I got that vibe, even in just like the astronaut suits. I got that vibe,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, he nailed it.
That's awesome. Let's take a step back, Dave, like to your beginnings. Like we always the one question we always ask our guests is what was what was the comic or TV show or movie that you saw that put you on this path that like you wanted to be like, I gotta be in comics, like this is my thing?
I think right off the top of my head, the first thing that comes to mind is the Batman animated series.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a kid, I can't remember entirely how old I was, but I think I was maybe 10, 12 years old or something like that when that came out.
Totally agree with you.
I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the storytelling, the Bruce Timm aesthetic.
Yeah.
I even watch those now. I mean, I watched one the other day.
They're timeless. They're
absolutely timeless. They're well produced and they're well written. And
there's a reason why it won awards back in the day. There's a reason for it. And
it's the only cartoon I can think of that's better than the comics. Like, they nail it perfectly.
They do.
It's like a one and done formula, but then it also had like kind of like running threads too, a little bit. Mm-hmm. Very, very loose though. So if you walked in on the middle of something, you could still follow it. Sure. So great.
Even in Batman history, like where it took place is so perfect because it was like, we're all coming off of like the 60s stuff. And then there was like the Frank Miller stuff. And like, here comes this perfectly timed animated series that's just dark enough to appease like the Dark Knight Returns people, but also like just enough camp to like keep those 60s folks series folks happy. It was a perfect blend.
Yep. Yeah. Couldn't agree with you more.
Dave, you talk about using blacks. I mean, did you know the history about how they started on black paper with that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff, that's incredible. Like, and I agree with you about Bruce Timm. Like, growing up, I was like, I think I was like every kid, like McFarlane and Jim Lee and all these guys that had like, a lot of detail in their work was like the jam growing up. But like when I was in art school and like seeing Bruce Timm's like very simple but precise style, like I love that look. Like I don't know, there's nothing like it,
But that's also not skimping on the details in the background either.
No, I mean it was just perfect. Like,
and that was also one of the things I took away from Feast or Famine was that the backgrounds were so wonderfully detailed and laid out and sprawling, and it helped kind of give it this epic feel.
Right? Yeah. Joe is definitely a student of classic comic books for sure. He knows how to compose.
See it in the work. Yeah,
for sure, absolutely. And I, like I said, I learned so much from him, not only about contrast and how to draw the eye in and push the eye through the story, but also like you were saying, how to put the right amount of detail in so that it sells what you're trying to do without killing it. Because I think a lot of artists sometimes they rely on all those extra details in order to make it look halfway decent. But
I agree. Your style too, like I was, like you sent us a PDF of Confederate Monsters, both me and Johnny, of the first issue. We're gonna talk about that. I want to show the campaign as well. But are you influenced at all by Sean Gordon Murphy? Because your artwork reminds me of that a lot.
How
And
could
that's
you
a good
tell?
thing.
How did you tell?
That's the feeling I got from some of the pages, especially there's a page with the party going on. Like,
Yeah.
to me, that I was like, oh man, it's like you ripped this right out of Curse of the Dark Knight or something. You
That
know?
was, I actually made a note of that one too. That was page 6, and it was the double page spread, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Of the party. Yeah, that was awesome. Just the way it laid out, the detail, all the different characters, everybody had their own little thing going on.
Right.
So, you know, it says something about a double page spread where you spend more than 5 minutes on that page, regardless of how much dialogue's on there. You know what I mean? Because there's so much detail, so much things to like, you know, like look at and like pinpoint. It's just so awesome. And that was so well executed specifically on that page.
Well, thank you so much. You know, I'm glad that you picked up on the sense of extending the time it takes to kind of take in that page.
Yep.
Because, you know, with stories like these, especially, you know, the first parts of them, you're kind of, you know, slowly ratcheting up, you know, the tension. So you don't want the story to move too quickly. And sometimes you do kind of fall prey to, you know, wanting to get a lot in there so that you can, you know, get the movie, hear what I'm saying, like get the comic going, get the story going. But, you know, you do need moments like that where you kind of slow things down and you have a moment to kind of breathe and allow the reader, you know, a chance to absorb it at their own pace.
It's funny that you say movie, because I like to think of my stories creatively in the same way, even though we're going into it as a comic, right? And like, I think of scenes in a movie, like a really good, you know, one of the Mission Impossible sequels where like he's walking through a dinner party crowd. Like, we can't convey that well in a comic book format, but you successfully did that with a wonderful double page spread on page 6 of Confederate Monster.
And I appreciate that. Again, it offers you as a writer and an artist an opportunity to do a scene like that, right? Where you can explore a big space in one huge shot and introduce yourself to many different characters that are going to be part of that scene.
Yep. Now, speaking of of writing specifically, like that's my forte. I'm a writer, so. And looking at some of the detail at the beginning of the book and kind of knowing some of the context just from the preview and looking at the overview of it. I mean, there were some of the themes that you mentioned, and there's some of the things you mentioned in the beginning of the book that like are like supreme foreshadowing for what I think is going to be happening here. Like, you talk about the bit about the fireflies and how their chemical balance is like this unforeseen or unknown act of nature that's, you know, merely inexplicable and only seen by God. And then, you know, then you mention the thing about like stealing the power of the sun, which is inherently the underlying theme of Frankenstein and everything that you kind of set the story up for, and you do it subtly in the beginning pages. It's beautifully crafted that way.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that you picked up on that, because that was the entire intention.
Yes, absolutely. I saw it right away. I don't know if I got that because I'm a writer or because you're a really good writer, but it's
just makes me feel good that you picked up on it. So.
Yeah, right on.
And I love the duality of the title too. You know, that's great. I love when writers do that. You know,
I had a hard time with the title because. Many people sort of put their noses up at it, you know, because I'm using the word Confederate. And I think especially because when I first kind of came out with it, we were kind of in the midst of the Black Lives Matter protests over the summer. So I think at the time it was just very hot. And when I talked to a lot of people when I was trying to get the Patreon out there last July, nobody wanted to talk about it. So, you know, it was tough. And I was also told by some people that I should change the title completely. And personally, I just felt like I picked the proper title, the right title, the best title. Kind of like we were talking about before, you know, Bruce Timm, he has a simple style because he can illustrate something beautifully, simply. So why can't I illustrate the story beautifully and simply with the words that I've chosen? And plus, I think it's a starting point for this whole conversation, because that's the whole crux of my story when we get into it. I mean, we haven't even gotten into the good stuff yet.
Like it's funny how you can't talk about history, especially like the dark spots in history, you know? And like, I mean, I thought you did it tastefully though. Like, I've only seen the first issue and I'm already hooked. I'm in for the whole thing.
But sorry, Keith, I didn't mean to step on you.
Go ahead.
So that logic, even if somebody not even wanting to like pay mind or respect to your book based upon the title, it's like saying I don't want to see the movie Black Klansman because of the title, not knowing of any of the context of the movie itself. It's so ignorant. It's equally as ignorant to deny a piece of work based upon the title like that, than to not actually read it for yourself and understand what the concept is at hand.
And it is what it is. So
it is.
I make space for everybody's perspective and their opinion. I just happen to have a different one. So it's my book, so I chose to do what I did with it, and I'm perfectly happy with it.
Amen. And I'm glad you stuck to your guns.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So let's bring up the campaign. Let's take a look at it while we're talking about it.
Meanwhile, we have some comments coming in. Hey, Ara, thanks for checking in.
Yeah,
again.
Ara, my man.
Yeah, actually, before we do that, let's say hello to the audience. We got Amy tonight. Greetings.
Hey, Amy.
Greetings, humans. What did she say? Off Wednesday is somehow on. So on. Ara, hey Ara, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Ara.
Thanks for having Dave. That's awesome.
Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, he actually had some questions for you too, Dave. And some comments. He said, I backed this book. Such an awesome idea. Looking forward to it.
Heck yeah.
And then he asked, does Dave have an idea of how long the series will be? I've forgotten if he mentioned that already.
Well, I do sort of have like a contained 6 issues for this first sort of part of the story. However, I don't know about you guys, but I never like to, close myself off to more. So, I definitely have this one open-ended. For Feast or Famine, I wrote a stinger at the end to kind of leave it open-ended. This one I've written I think 3 or 4 different stingers, so
cool.
all kinds of different directions. But
why not? If it's if people like it and if it does well, why not? And if you have more stories to tell,
Yeah, well, I had a conversation a while back with some people about it, and they said, well, you have this opportunity now where you're making your own stamp on the Universal Monster universe. So you could potentially dive into other characters within that universe. And I never really thought about it. So I thought, hey, maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing a Yankee Vampire sequel or, something of that line. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
A Memphis Mummy. I mean, I'm here for it.
We'll see. I have no idea yet. I am so 100% in Confederate Monster at the moment. I don't think I have time for anything else, but I'm always open for it. So
that's great.
Where did the inspiration while Keith's bringing up the campaign, where did the inspiration specifically for this story come to you? Was it something specific, or did it kind of just come to you over time? Did it start with a character? Did it start with a notion?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't think many people have asked me that question yet. So I came up with this concept actually around the same time that I came up with Feast or Famine. I had just finished creating my first self-published book, Atlas Origins, which is about a metaphysical superhero. And that was a 200-page graphic novel. So, I mean, I worked on that for about a year and some change straight. And after that, I wanted to get into publishing more, trying to get into, working with an independent publisher. So, I came up with a couple of different ideas for books, and this one, Confederate Monster, I was trying to tell a story about sort of the different aspects of man, sort of the different parts of the human psyche, and with Feast or Famine, I was trying to explore this alternate reality where what if all of the bad choices that we have made as a collective we hadn't made? So like we allowed Nikola Tesla to like be awesome and like pair with Albert Einstein and make an awesome freaking future. Like that to me was an interesting idea. But then I thought, what if we went the opposite direction and we explored more of like the true monstrous nature of man, and what kind of story can I, explore? And the first thing that came to my mind was Frankenstein. Because I love that character, and I've always wanted to kind of explore that character. So I was thinking about it. I was like, what kind of Frankenstein time period can I set this in? Because, I've seen old stuff. I've seen modern takes, I've seen kind of mythological things, but I haven't really seen much in the Civil War. So I thought, what about the Civil War? And then obviously just within moments, it dawned on me, I was like, slavery. So I thought, what if we could like combine this idea of like the monstrosities of that time period and what they were trying to do, to not only preserve a brutal way of life, but the means in which they went through to protect it, with the brutal battles that they went through and all the amputations that they did. And then I got to thinking, well, hell, there's amputations and body parts of Frankenstein. It's a perfect match. So, it just took me all of about maybe a few moments before I realized like this is a perfect pairing. I just need to figure out a story here. What kind of angle do I want to take? And that's when I decided, let's try to find a story right after the original, some kind of direct, sequel where it's like, we know what happened. Let's catch up on, where these characters have been the last, say, like 8 years.
Yep. Like a little side quill kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I've seen lots of other takes on the character in lots of different ways. And when I thought about this, I just thought, I've never seen this before. I would love to see it. So let's do it.
Yeah. One of the other things I really love too is that like you see something like this where like an army or a military entity of some sort is experimenting with the occult. It's like usually Nazis, right? But like you completely took that same concept and we're like, no, we're going with Confederates. Like, I love that. I love that such a, like swing in what the usual typical trope is in that regard,
Well, yeah. And I felt it was closer to, because I did have that feeling too, where I was like, well, I could put it in World War II, I could put it in World War I, right. But I felt like I wanted to explore something that was a little bit closer to the original tale, in that time period, and I felt the Civil War was close enough. It's far enough away that I think I could play with the technology enough to make it feel like it would work, because there's aspects about my reanimation process that's very unique and different than what you've seen before. Right. And it comes into play in issue 3. So you guys will get to read about that when you get your perks from this campaign. But I got lots more stuff to dive into and reveal in the second half.
Nice. Well, I think everything you've done so far is specifically in the way you've set it to the that Civil War era. It's like it gives it that charm. It gives it that little extra charm. What I mean?
And I don't think I can recall any time anyone's done like a monster story set in the Civil War, So it's kind of cool. It's different. I like it. Before we go on, let's a couple more people. Or a couple more comments. Ara said, maybe a Union Invisible Man. And he said, I should have Dave on my YouTube channel. And
sure.
Good old Don Chin joining us tonight. Hey, Don.
Hey, Don. Thanks for checking in.
Hey, Don, just so you know, watching on Facebook, you won't be able to see my comments. I did say hello to you, but you're only able to see them on YouTube, which I found out recently. Hello, Adam. Good. Thanks for joining us.
Adam, thanks for joining us.
Let's see. We got, Adam said, looking forward to checking out Confederate Monster. I hope you do a sequel to Feast or Famine one day. I'm an Einstein fan.
Yeah, maybe one day. I do have a story in mind. I just, I kind of, I don't know. I'm at a point right now where I'm really excited about creating a story all by myself. some people love the collaborative, relationship, and I'm not dogging it. I enjoy it as well. But there's just something about making a story completely yourself and having ownership of every bit of it that I just feel is very in alignment. I don't know, with me for some reason. I'm a pretty spiritual, energetic person, and so like when it comes to energy, and I feel something and it just lights a fire inside me, I know it's right, and so that's why I'm exploring this, and I want to see how far I can take this story, and if I can take this story as far as I believe it can go, maybe I will come back around and do a Feast or Famine one day. We'll see.
Yeah, I would have championed that. I love the first series, so. Yeah, let's take a look at the video. How long is the video, Dave?
It's not too long. I think maybe.
Okay. Yeah, let me blow it up here because I definitely want to.
Shout out to J-Bo in the chat.
Yeah, I saw that, J-Bo.
J-Bo.
You won't be able to see our comments unless you come on YouTube, unfortunately. But thanks for joining us.
Yep.
All right, so let me see here. I want to make this.
And Dave, you wrote and illustrated this one, right?
But yeah, I wrote, I illustrated, I lettered, I've done all the graphic design. I did this entire video.
You're like the Trent Reznor
video. So, well, except for the female voice, that's my girlfriend. That's not me. But
okay.
Much respect for doing all the duties, though.
Yes, thank you.
All right, let's play this and share it for the audience.
Yeah, fire it up.
Yeah, with my wife. Do you hear me? Dismount and walk forward.
Darling, you're home.
And waiting for you with loving arms.
Must you maul her like an animal, Daniel?
Calm yourself, Mrs. Stevenson. I'm just getting into character.
They both insisted upon hiring Daniel's patients to cater. I too thought it would look as unseemly as it does.
Is that all you discovered about me defending Mrs. Shit in my head?
Dr. Schmidt fits the description of our target in nearly every way.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
That is awesome. Well done on that trailer.
Yeah, I agree. It came out so
I really
good.
wanted to try to make more of a cinematic kind of movie trailer. So.
It felt very. It was only missing the trailer man voice. It felt very cinematic. I love that.
Yeah, I want to preview some of the artwork here too. I mean,
So,
covers are great.
The other thing I noticed is that like a lot of the preview stuff I've read, there's this platform called Global Comics. I'm not too sure if you've heard of it or heard us speak of it before. But they're up and coming digital comic platform. But one of the cool features of their site is that the same way Comixology has the guided view. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
They empower the creator to do their own guided view, and you can separate the panels any which way you please. And I was like, as I was reading, I believe Feast or Famine, just even like the planet catching that asteroid and shattering, like there's so many like wild ideas. I was like, oh, if this was on Global Comics, you can isolate this panel, like. And a lot of it was lending to the fact that the book felt very cinematic from the get-go, from the page, and that's also reflected in your trailers too.
Right. No, I haven't heard about that, and I'll check it out.
Check those guys out, yeah.
Absolutely.
Your work would be perfect on there.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, and looking at some of these pages, I mean, well done, man. They look awesome.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, really, this is sort of the opening few pages of the first issue, and I really wanted to try to capture the experience of what it was like to go through one of those battles during the Civil War, being, possibly out in the middle of the night, out in a wooded area that you're unfamiliar with, and all of a sudden you see a giant cannon blast of a huge ball of fire, and then you're ripped apart. So I really wanted to try to capture that experience and then tie that into our main character, because after all, he is the one that, repairs these guys who have broken limbs. And then this is just a little kind of preview of what it's like to be our main character, Igor, or how we call him in the book, Daniel, how he operates in his little makeshift laboratory in the secret Confederate bunker.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So tell us a little bit about the perks that are offered. I saw you had a nice featured one that looked like...
There were a lot of great perks as I was scrolling through the campaign.
Yeah, so the early bird bonus has been the most popular one for good reason. It's 10% off. It's basically the featured perk that's lower down on the perk list, but it includes a exclusive magnet. That magnet's not going to be available in any other perk. So in order to get that magnet, you got to get one of these early bird bonuses. Plus you get 10% off, so you get $5 off.
A t-shirt too.
It gets a t-shirt, your choice of print. There's 8 different prints to choose from. A sticker, a coaster, this magnet, and then all 3 copies of the book.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah,
what a great bundle for a good price.
I've been asked a lot of questions about how do I keep my prices so low, and honestly, the answer is in part, I do my research, and I'm not, spending too much money for things that I don't need to be spending too much money for. But B is, I'm not trying to overcharge. I'm just trying to give people, I think, a reasonable rate for what they're getting. Plus, I know that there are a bunch of other crowdfunders out there, and people out there are shelling out all kinds of money on them. So I want to be able to give them a little bit of a break and say, hey, thank you for supporting comics. Thank you for being out there, supporting me and people like me, like you guys. I'll give you a little bit of a break.
So even coming from a creator who has to, hire a illustrator, hire a letterer, all those things, you're kind of passing, since you're all of that in one, you're kind of passing those savings on to the reader a little bit too. Just that on the sheer fact that you're doing everything independently, you can, kind of set a cheaper rate in that regard.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, when I did Feast or Famine, I had to do 2 crowdfunders because the first crowdfunder, I needed to be able to afford the creative team.
There you go.
So if I would have done Feast or Famine all by myself, that first crowdfunder I wouldn't have needed to do.
Right. But also, in working with other individuals, I think that's very good creatively for somebody in their independent career.
Absolutely.
Because, you need that for the networking. You need that for a lot of other things. But, you are a wonderful example of doing both, right? Taking what you learn, what you've done, and then doing it independently yourself, and then in turn passing the value back on to the reader.
Right. Absolutely. I've been doing this for about 7 years now, and I've worked by myself. I've worked with other people. I worked with multiple other people. I've worked with publishers, multiple publishers. I've had many different experiences, both good and bad. And what I've learned is that this is what I like. And if I'm going to continue to do what I like, I believe in my mind that I'll be supported. And so far, my belief is holding true.
Yeah, I mean, I think you had. I think I saw the campaign in an early stage yesterday, or sometime this morning, and you've already doubled what I saw. What it's been, which is incredible. Congrats, man!
Thank you.
I think
it's been a good day.
If it continues this way, I think you'll hit this by next week. This goal.
I'm hopeful. Yeah, I'm hopeful I can definitely do that. I would love to be able to get into some stretch goals because I've got lots of cool ideas. I'm actually working on one right now. I don't want to reveal what it is yet, but it's going to be pretty darn cool if we get to that stretch goal. So
nice. Well, I noticed that one of the perks was a commission sketch. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I've got lots of different types of commissions too. I got a mini commission, which is just a 5x7 headshot, and then an 8x10 larger sort of shot. It's more of a half body shot. I'll probably put an arm in there with some kind of object. So if the character has a weapon, I'll probably try to include that if I can. And those are any character that you want. So if it's character we know, cool. If it's your original character, that's cool too. Just send me the reference, I'll draw it. The other one too that not a lot of people get because it's kind of expensive, but it's also for comic book writers and artists and creators out there that are trying to get additional things for their crowdfunders, variant covers for their book. I'm going to do a cover commission where I draw and I color a full pinup for your book. So if you want it for just a variant cover for your series, or if you want to use it as a pinup print for your crowdfunder, we can do that too. But last time I did this, I did it for the Feast or Famine campaign when we did the collected edition, and I sold 3 of them. So
why not do a perk that's aimed at other creators, right? I mean, that's fantastic.
I thought it would work great. Yeah, I really wanted to try to give a lot of people other options too. So if you didn't want just like a little black and white commission, you wanted something a little bit nicer, we can do that too.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
No, I see it right here. That's great. It's awesome, Dave. I mean, this campaign looks so good.
It is. It's a well laid out campaign. I mean, clearly it's as well laid out and organized as the work itself. You mentioned Atlas Origins earlier, and even just reading the preview of that, what a finely, carefully laid out story. Like you weave an origin story for a superhero so finely with great detail, and I mean, I think that also reflects the character of of yourself as an individual and just the quality of your work too.
Well, I am definitely a perfectionist. I can't lie in that.
It shows.
Yeah. Well, I came from, I used to be a creative director. So my job for a long time was I was in charge of branding for all of our clients. So my whole world was, creating a look and a feel and an environment for a particular audience and a particular story that you want to tell. So it's just, kind of really uniquely equipped me to really do this by myself. Because I don't think a lot of people have had the experience in marketing and advertising like I have. So.
That's such an important skill. Have you tabled it all before? I'm sure you have, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Tabling alone, when you have a wide variety of books on your table, knowing which book to offer to the individual that's potentially perusing your titles, picking their brain, knowing which what your niche market is for each story, all that's invaluable to doing really well at a convention. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and knowing how to sell yourself and the work, because those are two different things. I've met people at cons where they do beautiful work, but they don't know how to sell their work at all. They literally just sort of like sit there.
Buried in a table, right? Yeah, exactly.
We know the type, but then I also know people who are very strongly dedicated to their craft and work at it and work at it, but they don't believe in themselves. They don't believe in themselves enough to be able to get out there and sell it like they need to. They kind of just stand there and they're like, well, take it if you want to,
Yeah, right.
I totally subscribe to the theory that every single creator has an extent of that. It's just a matter of to what degree, right?
Right.
So it's like we all have the self-doubt. We all have that.
100%.
It's all natural, but it's like to what degree and how bad are you going to let it dominate you? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. How much are you going to let that become your story? Because you can rewrite it. And we know as writers how easy it is to rewrite a story. So
exactly.
Yeah, let's I just backed it, so let's take a look. Let's see what we've
Yeah, I can't wait for my rewards to come in.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no
so
problem.
I'm trying to send it on the website, but what's your planned end date?
So it's 30 days from yesterday. So it's like March 9th, something like that.
That's
Are you going to
planned
go
for
on demand
delivery,
with it too, Dave?
or
Yeah, I'm planning on going on in demand. I didn't catch that question, Johnny.
oh, sorry, I was just say, as far as delivery of issue 1, is it complete, or will
So-
people have to wait a little bit?
So right now, as far as completion of pages, I am about a little over halfway through the third.
Oh,
So I'm really close to finishing all of these 3 issues that we have in this campaign. So I'm anticipating that it's as long as things don't go incredibly insane and I have to just keep it open, because if that happens, I'll just keep it open.
sure.
But I do want to go to try to get these things printed and try to get things fulfilled sometime in midsummer, maybe late summer, depending on how things go.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then I wanted to take a look at your website here a little bit too. And it has some of your comics listed here. People can still see a free preview of this book, right?
Yep.
On your website if they want to check it out before they back.
Yep.
So yeah, if you guys are watching and you want to see, take a look, read it sequentially and see if this is for you, definitely check out the free preview. And then you can also see Dave's other work. We've already talked earlier about Feast or Famine, which is a great one. And then this one I'm really curious about because I haven't read this one. This is your first work, Dave?
Yeah, so this is the very first official comic book story from start to finish that I wrote and drew myself back in 2015.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, is this the Ed Brisson that works for Marvel now as a writer?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
I was able to snag him. I was the very last project that he lettered.
Oh, wow. So I didn't know he was a letterer before a writer. That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's really crazy how I have sort of been connected to 2 individuals who has been part of Marvel and other publishers. So I knew Ed, and Ed did lettering for Atlas, and then shortly thereafter I became the assistant of John Malin. John Malin, he lived in Fowlerville, which is like close to me or where I was living. And I worked for him for like 6 months or something like that on his run of Thunderbolts. And actually, if you look at the run of Thunderbolts we did, there's a couple of backgrounds and panels that I drew that he let me draw.
Oh, really?
Pretty sweet.
That's cool.
Yeah, I was super stoked.
That's really cool.
And
I really liked. I read one of the. What is that? Red Fight. Oh, I read Ed Brisson's Iron Fist run.
Yeah,
and it was excellent. I really liked his take on it. He is. Yeah. He's really good.
Yeah. So the end of the story is after that, after I worked for John, I found out that John and Ed were working together on Cable. Ed was writing and John was drawing. So I was like, wow, that's so weird. Like I worked with both of those guys. So.
Yeah, and he got him almost like a marriage there.
Yeah, it was super weird.
Yeah, that's great. And I think John is just all about the crowdfunding now too, right?
Oh yeah. He and the EVS crowd for sure.
Yeah. I saw that he has that book, Graveyard Shift. I haven't backed it yet. I'm kind of waiting. It sounds like it's kind of cool, like a monster book with like the X-Men kind of thing.
Right on.
But yeah, I haven't gotten to it. There's so many other books I want to get to back before they go away.
That's why I wanted to keep my prices a little lower to try to.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of. I mean, honestly, I think it's just going to get more crowded on crowdfunding. Yeah, because. Like you see what's happening with DC and Marvel, they're laying off people left and right. And, I follow a few newsletters from some writers and stuff, and they're even starting to talk about in their newsletters about how their futures are kind of getting like questionable now. And they're looking for new ways to make comics and keep it going. And I think this is going to be the future.
Yeah,
direct to consumer.
I was just on another podcast a little while ago, and we were having the same conversation because they asked me the same question: where do you see this going in like 5-10 years? And that was my answer. I said I think it's just going to be individual creators doing whatever they want to do, but cultivating a strong community of advocates, fans that go beyond just being a casual fan, that are actually going out there and sharing things and promoting it for you and like helping you to promote it, because that's how you're going to be able to be a success, like as we were talking about, one of the biggest obstacles to doing this successfully is promotion.
Yeah,
it's so expensive, and it's incredibly hard to do all by yourself, especially just being one person. So it's much more I think feasible when you have a group of people that are so dedicated that they are out there just shouting your praises all the time.
Yeah, no, and it's so true. Like, I mean, it's part of the reason I started this channel back in March, like, because like I wanted to be able to promote not only me but also Johnny's stuff, and then also like other creators, like to have them come on, have a conversation, and then promote their stuff and just make it kind of like have the channel grow, but also reach out to more people that are like a supportive of the indie comic community, and just make it a cool place to kind of like interact with a creator, ask them questions, things like that, besides our dumb questions too.
We can't walk through artist alleys right now. We can't go to conventions. So this is like the best that we can do to supplement that,
Absolutely. Yeah, I know for a fact that we're all suffering from the same, withdrawal when it comes to that kind of thing.
We have this global trauma amongst the community.
Well, and it's one of those things where like we are in an industry that I think a lot of us wear all these projects out on our sleeves, just like our hearts. So, when we're not feeling like we're supported and we're not feeling like we're getting, that kind of connection with our fan base, it's detrimental to our mindset.
Yeah.
Are we doing this for a reason? That kind of thing. And I was even in that last month, like right even as I was like coming up with everything I wanted to do for this crowdfunder, I was like, what am I even doing?
Extroverts can't be put into introvert scenarios. It's just we need to be able to socialize and do our thing, and having that type of restriction is just it's tough on us.
I agree.
I was just saying, do you have any questions from any other people in the audience, or?
I have a nice comment from Don Chin. He said he's I'm just impressed by his beard.
Oh.
Well, he's do you know who Don Chin is, Dave?
I do not actually.
He was he's a legend in like the indie comic scene from the 80s.
Really?
You ever hear of adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters?
No, but it's incredible.
He's one of the guys that like kind of pioneered the parody books in like the 80s.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He was selling like Johnny, what was it, like 70,000 copies of X-Farce and like
just that.
Can you imagine selling that much, Dave? I mean, come on.
Come on now.
It's you'd be a #1 book right now,
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Like, that good classic like Mad Magazine crack style spoof humor.
Yeah, he actually wrote for Crack Magazine and a few other
it's
things.
great.
He actually he's been coming in our chat for a while, but I did a story for his he has a campaign going right now called X-Farce Reloaded, and he had asked me and the Mighty Mascots team to do a story in there, so I was like, hell yeah, that's the closest I'll ever get to writing X-Men in my life.
Yeah, dude. That's awesome.
It was good too. Keith, your short was great.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, trying to whittle that Jonathan Hickman mind fuck of a story into like 5 pages was definitely a challenge, but it was fun,
You lampooned the fuck out of it, and I appreciate that. I was not I like House X was okay, but like I'm typically not a Hickman fan.
Okay. Yeah, he's like the kind of writer you have to read like 4 times in order to get what he's saying,
Yeah, like he does in 50 issues, what should be done in 5.
That's a good way of saying it.
Yeah, so yeah, Don said my story is hilarious. Thanks, Don. Appreciate that. Awesome. And Don's got I think you mentioned the beard. He has another campaign coming up called Beard Zerker, which is nice. The Keanu Reeves comic that just sold like 1 million copies there.
Oh yeah, heard about that.
That's gonna be fun. It's available for sign up, anyone that's interested. But yeah, so I mean, go ahead.
Really, everybody should be going to back Confederate Monster. Yeah. That's really like, check that book out. You know, I can't say enough good stuff about the stuff I've read about it so far. All the perks on the campaign are fantastic.
Yeah, I agree, and it's a lot of bang for your buck. And then plus, if you back the featured perk, and then plus if you have stretch goals coming, I mean, you're gonna just walk away with a ton of stuff.
I'm looking forward to seeing what stretch goals could potentially be popping up.
Yeah, me too.
I'm trying my best to keep the stretch goals to this level where I can just add them on, where I don't have to just say we're unlocking rewards and then you can go buy them now. You know, I want to try to just say, hey, we've unlocked it, you get it. You know, like that thing. But one of the things I can say is the first stretch goal that I would like to do, if we can get there, for 6,000 is I want to do the prequel story. It'll be its own little kind of ash can, kind of floppy. I'll do its own kind of little cover for it. And basically what it'll do is it'll kind of connect the original Frankenstein story and then where that, ended off, and how it connects to this one, because this one, kind of takes place 8 years later. So we'll kind of like see what all happened, to put all of what happens in the beginning of my story into motion.
Cool.
Dude, that sounds great. How many pages would you envision Ash Can to be?
I don't really want to go too much. I'm thinking like 10, I'm trying to get to like 10, maybe.
Yeah, that's
12,
fair for like a.
I think 12 or something like that.
Yeah, and plus you got to factor in your time and all that fun stuff into it, So yeah, that's great, man. I think that's a very doable stretch goal.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I think if you continue the way you're going, I think you're gonna hit like next week or the week after. It's weird though. Like my campaign, it started off like a race, a racehorse. Like it was like I think I hit about 1,500 within like the first like 2 days, and I had a 5,000 goal like you.
Sure.
And then it just started coming in drips and drabs after that. I mean, but after I think after about 3 weeks though, I had hit it, so it wasn't, it wasn't crazy either, so
sure.
I think you're going to do better though. Cause I think people love monsters. I think this is such a unique premise too. And I think you're going to do really well with it. So
I'm very hopeful that because it's a story that has such a familiarity to it, that it will be one of those things that makes people stop and go, wait, what is this? That kind of.
Yeah, and your craft is like top notch too. The storytelling's great. The lettering looks good. Did you do the lettering, or is it you hired it out? You did it.
Everything.
Awesome. Yeah,
passing those savings back on to you.
I love. I want to play with that on my own books at some point. The way you do the balloons without the outlines, I think that's a really cool look. I've seen that in a lot of image books now too.
Yeah, I just there was something about it that felt right for the look of the story, because I add the inking that I'm doing is done with kind of a rougher digital brush. So when you zoom in on it, it really does have a very rough edge to it. To give it that real kind of old, gritty, horror kind of look, right?
Yeah.
But then I add this, primarily because I'm doing a lot of it digital on my Patreon. I add a paper texture to it to kind of give it again more of
I like that
vintage, look. So then when we go to print, I want to try to work, with the printer so that I can try to get as much of that, old world look as I possibly can.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm planning on doing newsprint. So, I think it'll definitely, all come together and have that, unique look that really makes the story sell.
Awesome. Yeah. One more question before we start wrapping up, because I know we're almost at an hour here.
Sure.
Any plans, like after you get the 6 issues, are you you're gonna try to get it to a publisher, or are you just gonna keep it for your own? What are your plans?
I think at the moment I just want to see where it goes.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
in my mind, that's the preferred outcome, right? So I'm gonna.
Yeah. I mean, like
that's the preferred outcome.
Yeah, and I I think nowadays, with the direct to consumer format, it's like, publishers are, they're great to help you push things along, but if you've already got a fan base, why not do it yourself if you want,
Absolutely. And like you said, I think if you pay enough attention to the detail of the craft and make sure that you're not presenting something that is subpar for your standards and for what you want in your vision, because everybody's vision is different.
Yeah.
Like my book is going to look completely different than somebody else that is equally as talented, at what they do as me or anyone else. So I think that if you again put forth your best foot in a way, I think that you're going to be rewarded for it. I just can't see why you wouldn't be.
Your work is a reflection of yourself, essentially.
Yeah,
right. And you have to believe in it, and I think you have to love it just as much as you want other people to love it, right? I personally feel like as creators, we do go through ups and downs with the work, because comic books is kind of a grind, right? I mean, we start out strong. We're like, oh, first page, and then you get into like page 40 and you're like, wait, I have 50 more to go. Like, what?
That's never happened to me, Dave. I'm just kidding.
Liar.
Yeah.
I have to dip out, guys, but I want to make sure that everybody goes and backs Confederate Monster. I can't stress that enough. Check out Dave online. Follow him. Follow his books. Check out his website. Read his previews. I think you'll come to find that a lot of the work that he puts out there is right in your alley.
And Johnny, before you sign off, anything you want to let people know about, where to find you, just coming up, or
just for now, just follow me on Twitter at JohnnyC138, and if you're on Facebook, check out Movie Preview Show.
Awesome. All right, Johnny, I'll
guys.
We'll text you later.
Dave, thanks for hanging out with us.
We'll see you next week, Johnny, on the regular schedule.
Yeah, I'll text you.
All right, sounds good, man. Have a good night. And Dave, before we wrap up for the night, obviously we want to give people the link for the Indiegogo here. I'm going to put it in the chat.
Sure.
And then also, is there other places that you want to direct people to check you out?
If they want to just check out my social media, follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I have a YouTube channel where I have my own little show that I do. It's called Dose of Dave. All of that is Dave Swartz Art. It's this handle down here. Right.
Oh yeah, and I think we have it on your website here, right? Is all your social media?
Dave Swartz Art.
Dave Swartz Art. You can pick up all his social media links right there. Definitely check it out. We'll put it in the description of the video as well, so people can just look there if they want. And then for me, definitely follow me on Twitter. All my links are in the description of the video. Check out Mighty's Mascots. Buy it from Alterna. Buy it from my website. And then the new issues are coming up. I'm almost done issue 6, and then I'm getting them over to Pete, hopefully in March and April, and then start fulfilling my campaign in late spring. So hopefully trying to stay on track, So
I feel you. It's busy.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So that's it for tonight, everybody. We'll be back. I'll be dropping my newest comic review this Friday. And also we'll be back with our regular schedule next Wednesday with Sebastian Bonet, I think is the guest coming up next week. And yeah, that's it. So I'm going to play the outro here. Everyone have a good night, and we will see you next week.